Right now, and it was my first time attending the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday night, and while I knew it was going to be memorable, it was not for the reasons that unfolded inside the Hilton Ballroom. Now, I was surrounded by my colleagues from Nexstar Media Group, including network correspondent Trevor Shirley, who is joining us now from the White House at this hour. Trevor, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Dan.
Yeah, Trevor, from our perspective, we never want to become the part of the story, but here we are, part of the story from being in that room. And I just want to kind of get your perspective of what you heard in the moment. I think my reaction, I heard gunshots, but I think my reaction came from you kind of hitting the ground very quickly. So walk me through your initial moments.
You know, it's still such a blur. I think that your mind really can't process when something like that's happening. But I remember hearing the shots, those sounds, because we were at the back of the ballroom close to the doors. And I think had he made it through, he probably would have come through the doors that were close to our table. So those gunshots were pretty clearly heard from where we were sitting. But your brain in that moment, you know what you hear, but at the same time, you almost can't believe that you're hearing it. So there is that initial pause where you were like, am I actually hearing what I think I'm hearing? And I can't remember who I looked at first, if it was you or my executive producer, Lenny, someone else on our team who was sitting to my right. And I think collectively, everybody in our area just kind of got into a lower position, but nobody towards the front of the ballroom where the president was sitting, I think, had heard the shots or was registering what happened. There was that like 15 to 20 second pause before the people at the front of the room started to realize that something was going on. Yeah,
and I think quickly everybody had to then jump in. It's a room full of journalists who jumped into journalist mode. And while trying to remain safe, are holding their phones up in the air to try to get a little bit of a vantage point of what was happening at the same time. And I think that's why, from our perspective, Trevor, I checked on you a lot yesterday. The severity of the moment didn't hit until the next day and this morning.
Yeah, I think, for so many of us who just go into that, reporter mode, that's what we did. And honestly, there wasn't much else you could do because they locked down the ballroom. I feel like we were in there for probably another at least hour and a half before they opened the building and said, told everybody that you needed to leave. So yeah, in that moment, there really wasn't anything to do than, what we do every day: report, ask questions, try to find out what is happening. That's a ballroom where most people don't know it's actually underground. So the cell service there is never good, and the Wi-Fi is, hit or miss when people are using it just casually. There's about 3,000 people in the room. So when everybody was trying to get on the Wi-Fi and get as much information as they could and get it out, that made it, even tougher to figure out what was going on. But yeah, you're right. I think that we all went into that journalist mode and didn't really process what was happening until the next morning. For me, it kind of hit later that evening as I swung by, one of the after parties, and just thought, this just doesn't feel right. I need to go home.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point about the Wi-Fi, and we're showing video right now of the ballroom with the long guns that were drawn, and we're going to be talking to a security expert in just a few moments about the security at the dinner, Trevor, which you have been to many times. And I'm just curious because you're still in D.C. I was there the next morning where it looked like at the Hilton everything kind of returned business as normal. You're at the White House today. Have you seen any kind of stepped up security in the wake of this around D.C.?
So first off, in terms of the security at the ballroom at the Washington Hilton, I think this was my fourth year going, and it didn't feel any different than it has in years past. The security procedures were pretty much all the same. So I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary that I wasn't already expecting to see there. In terms of security around the White House, I really haven't seen anything different. The entrance over on Pennsylvania Avenue, where we as the press used to get in, there's 8-foot fencing that's been put up around that entrance, but I also think that may have something to do with the King and Queen of England arriving today. Yes. They're staying at Blair House, which is right across the street from the White House. So I think they've stepped up security for that as well, but I don't know that that's directly tied to what happened Saturday night.
All right, Trevor Shirley from Washington at the White House this morning, and I just want to say, Trevor, thank you to you and the group that was there. It was my first time, and when everybody kind of stood back up, I did grab Trevor and gave him a big hug. And it was, so thank you. Thank you for being a kind person at the same time of it all, Trevor.
Well, and hope you get to come back. I guess we're going to do this all again here in the next couple weeks.
I'm not sure we're going to let him.
We'll
Sorry.
See. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Trevor,
He's coming down.
Trevor, we're so glad
so
you're.
much,
We
Dan.
are,
Good seeing
Trevor.
you.
You are a part of our family here at Pix 11, and we're so glad you're okay as well.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Trevor.